right, we're going to fly around the world from the United States of America to good old Saudi Arabia for the Night of Champions, where all these people are going to, well, it's not even all title matches. So they didn't even actually do that. It's the Night of Champions, but there's non-title matches involved. So there's some false advertising right there. Not everybody's a champion like in AEW.
There's plenty of false advertising on this show. Did you see any of those Saudi Arabian promo packages?
No, because I watched on the Peacock. And I've figured out now how to skip through the filler stuff and get to just the matches, ding, ding to ding, ding on the Peacock. But the stadium looks great. Did they ever say how many people were in it? The Superdome over there in Saudi Arabia.
You know what? I don't know. If they did, I missed that. Usually they do announce something like that anytime there's a crowd anywhere near that.
Usually during the commentary, during the main events, they're talking about the 17,464 or whatever watching on. And have we got an update? Is this another of the deals where do they sell these tickets? Do they give them away? Do they tell people to come at gunpoint? Are they holding any close relatives in a detention facility until people go and cheer? What is the level of coercion? Or are the people just happy to see some happiness and potentially some women?
Again, you never hear anything about the live gate for these shows. It's just WWE were paid this amount of money. It's a sold show. That's all it is.
But
so who knows where these people come from? I don't know if the options are the government
all over the country dressed as they are to play. Let's make a deal. No. They obviously were into it, and they know what's going on. They know the talent, so they were motivated. It wasn't like, I guess, like the North Korea situation where it was more or less determined that you must come. But the stadium looks great. That's what a $50 million budget will do for you, I guess. The screens and the lighting, holy shit, the truss, the big thing they built.
I'm tired of it. You know, I'm tired of the whole look. And again, we just saw the Puerto Rico show, and I know that's just one example, but I was thinking it before then. I think it's all gotten too big and too much. To me, it doesn't mean anything anymore. It's just another giant stage. Again, WrestleMania is one thing, but I think it would be cool if they did something different with all these shows going forward.
Well, but Saudi Arabia has to, stay up with the Joneses.
That's true.
The Macafakaloobs and the Fuds have to stay up with the Joneses. They've got to look bigger, at least as big, if not bigger and better than anything else in other countries, right? Or that would foil the propaganda of the piece.
I guess so.
So anyway, nevertheless, they opened up with the finals of the tournament for World Heavyweight Championship number 3 with Seth Franklin Rollins and AJ Styles. And even though both guys are baby faces, they were clearly on Franklin's side here and do the singing and etc. And AJ opened up fairly aggressive. And here's the thing. These are two of the most athletic guys there and two of the most experienced workers. And they're stiff and snug when they need to be. And as a match performance, this is top level. I understand when these guys do it, why people like the modern style of match where it's not really a wrestling match with big moves, but it's a performance where guys punch and kick each other in the middle to set up for big moves. But at the same time, I guess with no heroic babyface or evil heel and a match that's supposed to be of monumental importance, but it didn't really seem like a world championship match because nobody even held the belt at that point. And they've made it up, as we've talked about over the past several weeks, out of thin air. This was a great wrestling performance. Did anybody buy it as being for a world heavyweight championship?
I didn't. I don't know if the people there did just because they get to say they saw something and, that's a big deal. I mean, I'm sure it's a big deal to Rollins, I think. I don't know. Yeah. No one came out with champagne. I really don't know.
Well, they called it the working man's championship. That makes it sound like a toilet plunger. Or, here, we'll give this to a fucking stooge. Isn't that what they called Intercontinental title because usually the best workers in the company held that belt, which was totally inside and didn't make sense in a kayfabe presentation to begin with.
That's what it is. Everything's been bumped up. What used to be Intercontinental is now this new World Heavyweight Championship.
But anyway, these guys can chop and strike, unlike a lot of the pansies over across the street in the other company. They do everything at a high level, and nothing is sloppy, dangerous, or nonsensical. It's just lots of big moves that take a while to set up, like modern matches. And that, to me, I think the reason why I don't like that is because it gives you so many chances to see cooperation, or when they're up on the ropes setting up the next big flibberty gibbet, as Aunt Lola would say. That was one of her favorite words. Oh, flibberty gibbet. Because she didn't cuss. Anyway, boom, boom, boom. They went back and forth. They were getting 2 counts. People are loving it. And finally, AJ got a 2 count with a pedigree, went for the forearm. Seth hit a super kick on him, went for the stomp, but his bad knee that he'd been selling buckled. But then Seth hit a pedigree and hurt his fucking knee. But then he hit the curb stomp, which his knee apparently was fine for. 1, 2, 3. And Seth Rollins, totally out of nowhere, completely unexpectedly, is the new holder of the first holder of the World Heavyweight Championship number 3, who was presented the new title belt in the ring by Triple H himself.
Yes.
Yes. You are correct, sir.
I don't know what to say. They're both really good, and I've seen them in excellent matches. One of the best matches I ever saw live was Tyler Black versus Austin Aries at Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
Really talented guys. And I almost don't want to critique this match too much just because I'll say the second part last, I guess. You'll say the second part last? Well, I'll say it right now then.
How many parts are there?
I don't even know. It's one of those days. Listen, let's go to this part. What I meant to say, I completely forgot. What I meant to say, I don't know if I could fairly watch wrestling in the middle of the day. I mean, I know it sounds crazy, and I used to, when I was trading tapes, I always did, but when it's a live event, and it's in the middle of the day, and they open with the World Championship match, so again, this is 1 p.m., by the time it's over, 1:25, 1:30 Eastern time, it's the middle of the day. The Mets didn't even start yet. It's the middle of the day. And it's hard to get into, for me, it's not like 7 p.m. and you're primed and you're ready to go. Opening match, let's get into it. I almost felt like this had to try to warm me up for the rest of the show. And it felt at times, this is the first part I was going to say before, it felt at times like just, I don't know, I've seen everything these guys do.
Yeah.
There was nothing, it just felt like another match. Like you asked before, does it feel like a World Championship match? Beyond what this championship is from its inception and its introduction on, it just didn't feel like anything more than the average match either one of these guys has, because their average matches are really good.
Yeah.
It didn't feel anything special beyond that.
Here's another thing. Past your 1 o'clock in the afternoon Eastern, it was on a Saturday to boot. Because think of even going back to the territory days.
And it's beautiful here, too. I mean, so the sun's out. So you have 2 options. I can watch this from Saudi Arabia live, or I can go to the pool.
Well, we talked about that at the top of the program. Here it is Memorial Day weekend. But think back to the territory days. The afternoon weekend shows were almost exclusively on Sunday. Every once in a while, they'd sneak in a Saturday afternoon. And only every once in a while would those do very well. But we would do 6-figure gates on 2 o'clock Sunday afternoon shows. But the first thing they would see on that show would not be Ric Flair versus, Dusty Rhodes or Barry Windham for the NWA title. It would be Rocky Kernodle versus Gary Royal. And you'd kind of work your way into it. But you've seen an hour and a half of wrestling at least. And it's, headed on to 4 o'clock in the afternoon by the time you see the main event, the world title match. But
yeah, it's hard to start. It's hard to start hot when it's the middle of the day, like on a beautiful day.
And on a Saturday.
Yeah.
And whether it's to get them in the building in good weather, if it's a live event, or whether it's just to get up for goddamn, a big event right after lunch. Anyway, I got up for the next one and went to get a sandwich. No, I didn't. Becky Lynch versus Trish Stratus. I watched this match, and I'm glad I did. This was one of the, if Charlotte and Rhea Ripley is the standard of the girls wrestling match that we have seen over the past couple of years, in ring, the Flair and Steamboat, if you will, then this is the goddamn standard for a girls grudge match, because they actually had a fight. And not only that, but there was a clear heel and a clear baby face. Trish is a good heel. I didn't think I was going to say that. Besides the full body outfits, Trish was dressed up like a race car driver, and Becky was dressed up like Bruce Lee in Game of Death. They were covered from, neck to fucking toe.
Well, I think it's more Uma Thurman and Kill Bill dressed like Bruce Lee in Game of Death.
Well, Bruce Lee was a badass, so I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt.
Then the bride or then Becky Lynch?
Then who? What?
Then Uma Thurman and Kill Bill or Becky Lynch?
Bruce Lee's badder than everybody.
He's dead. He wasn't better than everyone.
Well,
Kill Bill, she killed everyone. She won. She got the kid and left.
Yeah, but see, that was a movie, whereas Bruce Lee's movies were like documentaries. He really won those fights. Haven't you ever heard that?
I can't tell if you really believe that or not.
Well, no, everybody knew that when I was a kid. But anyway, so the match between Becky and Trish opened up. Trish was trash talking her, or making faces or whatever, and Becky just went bam and nailed her with a good looking punch, and that way popped me. And that was the start of it, and they had a fight. And they went back and forth, and they went to the floor, but not forever. They were fighting back and forth, and we got a chance. Was that Fubar Makafakalub and Slapko Fudd on commentary again this time?
I didn't think so, but I'm not sure. But I wasn't listening to the commentary. I'm basing this on the 5 seconds they're shown on camera.
Well, yeah, that's why they were on camera when the girls were fighting out there, but one of them didn't look like, as I recall, I hope that our making them famous didn't make them jack their price up to where they couldn't afford them in the WWE. But anyway, but Trish was being a heel, and the facials and the cockiness. And she got the hanging sleeper on Becky a time or two, standing up on the ropes, and then took a bow after she dropped her to piss off the people, and Becky reaches up and punches her in the face again. That was great. And I wrote, it was girls having an actual grudge match and fighting and not tumbling. And it was very refreshing. Trish even double fish hooked Becky. And then did you see the 1-2 in the middle where they were just fucking hauling up? They put their bodies into it, and they're swinging, and they're fucking selling better than the guys. And when they did again go to the floor, they would do the thing where Becky did a baseball slide, and they had a little scuffle on the floor, but Trish sent her into the post, and then boom, they got back in. So he didn't bury the referee and didn't turn the whole thing into shit. And the only thing that really, and I mean, Trish has been out of the ring for a while, and this is probably not the easiest thing in the world to do, but the only buzzkill in the match was where Becky was up on the turnbuckle, and Trish was going for the superplex, and Becky blocked it and knocked her off, and then Trish ran and did a handstand, or tried to, on the bottom rope and get a head scissors on Becky and bring her off, but she kind of bobbled and Becky had to grab her feet and put her around her head. And I'm like, aw. But nevertheless, at that point, I said, you know what? I'm thinking they're needing to start thinking about going home, because the people have been hot. They're starting to come down. It seemed like they were slowing down a little bit. So finally they did shortly thereafterwards. Trish got a 2 count on a chick kick, and then basically they went into the finish of the thing where Becky hit her move and Trish got a foot on the ropes. and Trish rolls to the floor, and Becky goes out and throws her back in. And as Becky is climbing back in the ring, Brian, how many people we've seen come out from under the fucking ring in the last 3 weeks alone?
On just this promotion?
Everybody.
We've seen a few.
So this time it was Zoe Stark, living down there in the land of fucking whatever that land is underneath the ring.
And if you didn't know who she was, her name was screamed at you.
Yes.
That's Zoe Stark!
So everybody in the stadium could hear the announcers without even a PA system. And she hit her finish on Becky on the floor and then threw her in. And, of course, the referee was aware of nothing, cognizant of nothing. And then Trish hit her finish 1, 2, 3. So the only thing I have to give it a demerit for besides the bobbled move is it was a great match with a lousy finish. And I'm not even saying Trish shouldn't have won. I think they should do this again. But that was just like, how can we get out of this after they finish doing all the stuff they're going to do? That seems like that's how much thought was put into that. So great match, lousy finish, but girls had a grudge match. Yay! What'd you think?
I really liked the contract signing I told you the other day on Raw. And I thought this was good. I want to watch it a second time again. The same thing I said that plagued me for the World Championship match, which started out the show. It's hard for me to get into this stuff in the middle of the day. This was 1:30 in the afternoon, beautiful out, and these two women are wearing more clothes than they've ever worn in their entire lives in this match. It was good it was hard for me to get into it. I can't explain my mindset watching these live shows in the middle of the day. I'm waiting for the big things to happen.
Well, now you know what I did, don't you?
I'm afraid. What?
I watched this son of a bitch from 8 to 11 o'clock on Sunday morning. I wasn't going to screw up my Saturday Memorial Day weekend with this caca. But it's raining outside and cold here, so maybe that had something to do with it. And besides that, I got about as into it as I'm going to get into anything in these days.
It's going to be interesting. I mean, I think they're going to try to do this feud through SummerSlam.
I don't mind seeing that again. So the following contest was, again, I had to watch it. If it was anybody else but Gunther, I'd have skipped it because it is what it is. But for the Intercontinental title, Gunther against our friend Mustafa Ali.
Mustafa.
Well, just Gesundheit. And so the question is, and it was answered by the announcers, I was thinking, is anybody taking this seriously? He fluked into a title match, and nobody thinks he's going to win this. And the announcers pretty much at the top were saying, well, yeah, Ali's going to need a miracle. So they did it for, as we said, home country support or home region or whatever. And Gunther, again, is the perfect wrestler. And he's a beast. And he let the little guy have a flurry in a believable way and then stopped him with a body slam. And then the chops and the pace and the attitude and the facials. I love, actually, in this day and age, getting to watch a pro wrestler work and him not be, 60 years old. Gunther's unique. But they had a short match, and then Gunther gave him a flurry later on and gave him a couple of 2 counts. And then Gunther, boom, hit him with a drop kick and a power bomb, 1, 2, 3. And it didn't last long. It lasted about as long as it should. Gunther's amazing. And this was better than it should have been. Or it's better than it would have been with anybody else except Gunther if you told somebody else, okay, you're a top guy and we just put this guy in this spot for this show, but beat him in 5 or 6 minutes. It wouldn't have been this good because Gunther's just so much fun to watch.
I can't really add too much to that. I mean, we knew who was going to win, and
yeah,
it was fine for what it was. Give Gunther a big win. Or give Gunther a win. It's not a big win.
A big win. Or catch a quick win. Vince hates that. That's another Vince McMahon banned term. Even when you would go to in the old days, when you weren't completely sure that guys were going to agree to go along with doing a job, the booker or whoever was given the finish would go up to the fucking guy and he'd say, look, you take most of the match, boom, boom, boom. get some fucking steam on him, whatever. He'll make a comeback, and then let him catch a quick one. Just catch a quick one. Which means roll you up, or some little quick pin, 1, 2, 3, and you're fine. And that's kind of the way that you would talk a guy into it if he was reticent. And Vince McMahon hates that. Catch a quick one. That's bullshit. Anyway, speaking of would you like a quickie, Brian? With Bianca and Asuka?
I'm not going to indulge in this question.
A quickie. Would you like a quickie, a quick match? Because they didn't have one. It took a while.
Yeah, I was wondering because the match after this was the quick one, so I didn't know where the hell you were going.
Yeah, well, we got a quickie, but it wasn't a quickie that I wanted. I wanted that one to last a while. There are 3 girls' matches on this one premium live event, and of the 3 of them, the one that I liked the best and the one that I wanted to see the most were not the longest one, I don't think. It was Bianca and Asuka. I did note that the full-body hazmat suits that they had to wear got more off-putting in this one because they looked uncomfortable. It's like, my God, I hope it's not hot there. These people are going to fucking lose 20 pounds wearing these sweatsuits. And this is the female equivalent of Seth and AJ. It's a modern match. They're doing some tumbling because Bianca's gymnastic. They're going from setting up one big move to another. And after seeing Trish and Becky actually having a grudge match and trying to make it look like a fight, this kind of like with AJ and Seth seems like the same thing that we see from most of the high-level performers on Raw or SmackDown all the time. I didn't go gaga over this like I did Bianca and Io in Puerto Rico. I don't think it was as good a match, and the people weren't in the same fashion. They were, they were still hot for it, but, it wasn't like it was over the top. And toward the end, honestly, I thought it got a bit sloppy. I don't want to be hung up and horsewhipped for saying that about your precious Bianca, Brian. But then Asuka missed the mist. She was inaccurate in her spewing of the mist. And so then they did some rolling lucha stuff, and Bianca gave her a choke slam, and then Asuka blew the mist into and onto her own hand. And as Bianca picked her up to give her the finish, Asuka rubbed Bianca's eyes with the misty hand and blinded her and hit a kick 1, 2, 3 and won the title, became the new champion. And in my opinion, this should have been on before Trish and Becky because it sure couldn't follow it. What'd you think?
I thought it was fine for what it was. Again, hard for me to get into the show. I got to watch a lot of this a second time, but I was...
Oh, come on now. Pretty soon it's going to be like 5 o'clock in the evening.
No, I started
How long were you hung over on?
I wasn't hung over, but it takes a while, just the middle of the day, and it's Saudi Arabia. I thought it was all right. I was shocked by the finish. I'm surprised that they're going to put the belt on Asuka and heel Asuka right now and take it off Bianca. But let's see where they go. I'd like to see this live at around 9:30 p.m. on a Sunday night and see what I would think of it.
Well, I'll put you down. I'll call you and give you a reminder when 9:30 comes. The next contest was Rhea Ripley and Natalya. So now we got girls matches back to back, and that's I think it had to have probably been a plus at this point that they were in Saudi Arabia that do not get to see women unless they're wearing muumuus and couch covers, right? Very often. They were a little bit more forgiving. Would this have flown in the States where, they would have wanted to be getting to fucking Brock or something? But this is the one I wanted to see because I thought ahead of time, on paper, this would be the best wrestling match. Natalya's the veteran. Rhea's the star. They're both great. And it went like 75 to 90 seconds. Rhea jumped her from behind at the bell, went to the floor, bounced her off the desk some times, into the stairs, threw her back in, hit her finish, 1, 2, 3. Who went long on this program?
I hate to say it because I saw there were a lot of unhappy Natalya fans on social media, but this is exactly what this should have been. Natalya's been there forever. I don't think she should have had a competitive match with Rhea Ripley. As good a match as it may have been in terms of work rate or whatever. For Rhea Ripley right now, similar to Gunther, I think this is exactly the kind of match she should have, building to something bigger. I don't know who the bigger person is that she's going to wrestle, but I had no problem with this. I know some people did.
Then couldn't they have done 4 to 5 exciting minutes culminating with a dominant victory for Rhea Ripley instead of, I love Rhea, but, you know.
She's the best. She is so good. She gives me so much hope that there'll be a future for some of these women in wrestling because she's so good. She's so good.
And then also she came out head to toe in leather and chains. It's like they'd rather these Saudi Arabian children see a fucking dominatrix instead of a girl wearing a fucking moolah bathing suit, I guess.
I was amazed. I don't know when it was in the show, and I don't even know if you would bring it up, but when they showed Scarlett and Cross sitting at ringside, I'm like, well, she seems like she's wearing something a little risky for the fucking audience there. And she wasn't in general, but
I wouldn't take her to fucking Saudi Arabia and let her show goddamn eyelid and somebody will cut your fucking head off. They don't see shit like that over there. Anyway, here we go. The next match, the fight between Brock Lesnar and Cody Rhodes. And I think I know the Bloodline story and Roman being involved, the tag team title match, and that did in hindsight have to go on last because of what happens. But I think this is the match. This could have been the world title match. This is who people would buy as fighting for a world title. And it's, two of the biggest stars in the company. And they pulled this off, and the arm in hindsight, adding the MacGuffin of the broken arm or whatever, was gorgeous because it gave Cody another out, and they did what we thought that they would do when we talked about it in the preview. If they're obviously going for 3, so now they're 1-1. And the question is, will Cody come back and triumph over Brock right before he wins his inevitable world title, or will that be saved until Brock could potentially be his challenger because they could be sold as still 1-1? I don't know, but that's what they did here. And they here's the one thing before we talk about what happened in the match. The cast. They said a titanium cast, right? But you're looking at the cast, and the cast is a black regular sport brace support looking thing with buckles on it and some tape, white tape underneath it. How is that titanium? It was neither a plaster cast, nor do they make titanium now with fucking Velcro buckles on it. What's happening there, Brian? You're younger than I am. You know all the latest medical science.
I didn't think about it that much. I kind of went with it. I was going to ask you before what your thoughts are, because they basically did something for the last week that everyone knew who was a fan. Well, everyone knew who follows it the way us stupid people do. Wasn't a legitimate broken arm.
Right.
But they played into it, and I thought it worked perfectly into the match. In that spirit, I went with whatever the Cowboy Bob Orton cast he had was.
Yes.
The air cast or whatever. I went with it. Do you have any problem in this day and age? I thought it was kind of cool the way they, the smart fans knew it wasn't a real broken arm, but it worked. It was the right thing to do here. It actually worked into the match.
Yes, and that's because it's wrestling. And you give the babyface either an out or an obstacle to overcome, or a reason for his eventual demise that is not of his own making, but is of the heel's treachery, blah, blah, blah. But here's what I was thinking. Because we've got a budget now, right? It's old as the hills. Sometimes it's a work. Sometimes in the past it's been legitimate, where a babyface would have a broken hand or wrist or something to have a cast and be able to use it as a weapon, and then the heel in the territories where it was every week would go crazy. Last week he hit me with the cast, and I want that cast barred, or we've got to put on boxing gloves, or whatever the fuck, and it was an ongoing thing. Ricky Morton one time broke his hand during a big run with not only the Midnight and tag team matches, but I think when he was still having singles matches with Flair. And he had a real cast on, and they made it part of the goddamn deal. Well, if he catches him with that cast, and that's why I was thinking now we've got a budget, right? I say we, the royal we. I know it's kind of over the top, but so is so much of this. Wouldn't it have been cool if they'd done a video where Cody went to Birmingham and got some kind of space age fucking titanium cast, and he pulled his arm out of a goddamn bucket of dry ice or something, and here's this goddamn shiny silver Iron Man looking fucking thing on his hand with steam coming off of it. And if you hit Brock Lesnar with that, goddamn, he's going down. That's a thought I have. Would that be too much, or would that fit in with today's spirit of things?
I think it's too much unless it's no DQ or something. Because
this was supposed to got challenged to a fight. The guy's coming out with a broken arm. I figure we already had passed the no DQ point.
If you show up with Vader's helmet on your arm, I think the referee may have a word or two to say with you.
No, it's from Dr. Andrews in Birmingham.
You said titanium.
Yeah, that's what they said, but make it look like it. It's form-fitting to his fucking, around his thumb and to his arm, but it's silver and it looks like Lost in Space shit. And they say this is the newest space age development from Dr. Andrews in Birmingham. And by the way, it weighs 15 pounds. It's hard as a fucking, lead, and it's like a giant coal miner's glove. Anyway, hey, so I was slappy at about 10:15 on a Sunday morning. So Brock, obviously, Cody is trying to duck and bail and run and then attack, but Brock starts just belly to bellying him all over the place, and Cody starts selling the fucking arm. But then he realizes he can fire back with the cast because it's titanium. And boom, 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 and Cody starts doing it. He hits a dive with the cast, and then a double sledge off the announce desk on the floor with the cast. And the disaster kick and the Cody cutter, and the people are into this. They are really loving all this shit back and forth. And the only thing is, after Cody had bounced Brock off the desk and hit him with the sledge with the cast and several things, the referee started putting his gloves on, but nobody was bleeding. I'm thinking, did Brock try another hard way on the desk, or did he say hit me with the cast for real or whatever? But he could, because he had like a scab on his head, but he didn't get any. So I'm wondering if he was trying to bust himself open again. Thankfully, Brock has nothing to worry about from CTE. With a fucking skull the thickness of a goddamn giant silverback gorilla, I don't think he's got anything to worry about. And then, again, like you said, they played the arm perfectly. This was so old-time wrestling, but with a modern twist. Brock does have a modern style, but because it's so natural and works for him, it would have worked in the territories, too, for a shooter that suplexes you all over everywhere and is just a beast. But Cody he hit the crossroads, but hurt his arm. But then he hit it again and went for the third one, but Brock got a double wrist lock, the Kimura, as the kids say. And Cody tried to pin him like he did the last time, but Brock's too smart for it this time. And finally, he held that wrist lock for a long time until Cody got the ropes, and the place came apart for a rope break. They were really into that. And then Cody foiled the F5 and hit the crossroads, got another 2 count. And then he hit him some more with the cast again, but Brock scooped him up and hit an F5 and got a 2 count, a big pop on that one. And Brock's selling is so good for a wounded beast, and Cody for a sympathetic baby face as his lip is quivering, but he's still trying to come back, and that they got a "This is awesome" chant when they were selling. And then finally Brock gets the wrist lock again and traps Cody. He can't go anywhere, and Cody goes limp. And they thankfully do not do the check the arm 3 times. I think we've moved past that in wrestling. But he checked it once and it was limp, and the referee called for the bell, and the people were hot. Not because it was like, fuck you, we don't like the finish, but fuck, we didn't want Brock to win. And I thought this was great stuff. And as you said, and we both said at the top of the segment, not being sure ahead of time of the whole arm thing, it did work perfectly. And again, you could see Dusty in there selling that broken arm, but he's not going to quit yet.
Really, really good. Told a great story. You get Brock his win. It's a decisive win. It's off an injury that he gave to Cody. Sets up the 3rd match, if there will be only 3 matches here. I thought this was really good. I was getting into the show by this point. This got me into the show. I thought this was a really, really good thing. And, you know, they teased enough at the end that you almost thought Cody would get out of it. And he didn't.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing, is that it was a decisive win for Brock, but it wasn't a decisive loss for Cody, if that makes any sense, in terms of he didn't just beat Cody flat. Cody went in with a handicap. Cody acquitted himself better than anybody could have expected in the circumstance. And then Cody was too gutsy to submit, even though his arm was broken, so he passed out. That's the ultimate babyface out for, this should have been for the title, because that's the ultimate babyface challenging a heel champion out, and they can come back to it. And they still haven't had a decisive winner really in either fashion. Even though Brock comes off as a beast, Cody has won one, you know, by that fluke kind of, well, resourceful, not fluke, but resourceful pin when he was in the wrist lock. And this time he's lost because he accidentally had a broken arm that the heel gave him. So there's been no, boom, I hit my finish on you and you're laying flat there with no fucking excuses and 1, 2, 3. And that's great, because now they've still got that yet to do. Should we go to our main event of the evening, Brian?
Yeah, let's do that, because Suzanne's friends are congregating out in the foyer, and they're pissing me off with all the noise they're making.
Do they?
I'm going to turn off the heat to the fucking pool. Watch that.
Why don't you throw that live wire into the pool, and maybe that would help quiet them down a little bit.
We'll see.
I can hear something. Do they have any torches, or are they armed? They have any weapons, machetes potentially?
No, I'm the only one armed.
Okay, well, in that case, but you sound like you're outnumbered, so it might be a fair fight.
I don't know.
All righty. For the tag team championship of all of the WWE, both of them, it was Kevin Owens, or Cammy and Seven, Kevin and Sammy, Owens and Zayn, against our friends Roman Reigns and Solo with Paul Heyman. You know, God damn it, I know Paul's almost as old as me, but is it worth the flight for him to go over there and stand there completely immobile? If it was 175 degrees in that building and the sun was beating down, he wouldn't sweat. He changes his facial expression. He doesn't even shift his weight from foot to foot. Stays the same place through the whole match, like a fucking stone statue. I'd have to do something to justify 25 hours in a plane or whatever to get over there and back.
He's content not having heat, because he really doesn't have heat. Like, you know, like no one's like, I hate that Paul Heyman. There's none of that.
For the first time in his life, are you saying he doesn't have heat with either the fans or the boys in the back?
Well, I'm saying with the fans, he doesn't have heat. That's what I said.
So anyway, to start this match, Sammy came out dressed like a swami. And so what has been changed? Didn't they threaten to fucking abduct him, put him in a suitcase, and bury him under a pyramid or something if he came over there before because he's of the wrong religion? What's happened now? He came out dressed like the goddamn Arab Pope and they love him.
I actually don't know. I know there was an issue where he hadn't previously gone, but I don't know enough about what it was to even get. I have no idea. So I know it was a big deal him being there, and it seemed like he really embraced it, and they really embraced him.
And the fans were, oh yes, we let. So there was
and I'm sure the check was really nice too.
Well, yeah, but I mean, the normal everyday people don't care, but somebody in the government was going to fucking behead him, or the religious government. Who runs that fucking place over there? Well, nevertheless, what if somebody
MBS.
can enlighten us?
Yes.
Okay, well, somebody can enlighten us on how Sammy got a reprieve from, what do they call it? The fatwa? Is that that's what they issued onto
Salman Rushdie.
Old Solomon Grundy.
Salman Rushdie.
Salman Rushdie. I knew that was his name.
Not Sal Bass.
Yeah,
Salman.
they issued a fatwa on Solomon Grundy, and that's why every time people of a certain Muslim faith see him, they have to fart in his general direction. Now I got the whole thing straight.
Sounds like it, yes.
So anyway, the crowd was hot at the start of this. It cooled off as they went along as it started getting a little long. And then, of course, we had the fireworks at the end. But Roman Reigns is a great heel. I mean, he just has to work the people and, just the attitude that he has. And for much of the first part of the match, it was Solo against the other two. And Corey Graves said one thing that didn't make sense, but then he redeemed himself with me. They were talking about Roman Reigns being such a despicable person, right? And Graves said, well, as long as Roman Reigns is running the show, my checks are bigger. How does that make sense for an announcer? Would you get paid the same fucking thing no matter who the champion was? Does the NBA gear their announcer pay to whoever wins the NBA finals, or I don't know, but then
it's more an indictment on the WWE pay scale than anything else.
It's like, yeah, if we don't have a good drawing champion, we can't afford to pay you much, Corey. But then later on, he redeemed himself when he said that somebody's punches their fists are like getting punched in the face with a Thanksgiving turkey. So I like that. But Zayn sells great. He sells like El Generico. That's one thing I always liked about him. Solo, as I mentioned earlier in the program, getting better and more comfortable. He still can be a little bit smoother, but that's experience, which he's still getting, and he's smoothed out, I think. He looks better, more confident. Sammy, again, they have to do the thing where Sammy sells and gets a tag to Owens, and then Owens sells and gets a tag to Sammy. And after you've seen Sammy sell, Owens selling is a fucking letdown. And it makes the match so long because then they do such complicated shit at the end that it's goddamn long. And I noticed Sammy fought both the heels on the floor when they'd gotten the heat on him and he set up to make the tag to Kevin. He laid them out both on the floor in front of the announce desk and then crawled into the ring for the tag and was doing the swimming crawl across the ring that traditionally a babyface would do if he's crawling for the hot tag and people would get with it. The people didn't get with it. And the reason why, because the heels were not only too far away, they were on the floor instead of down in the ring where Sammy could. There was no imminent danger to Sammy that anybody was going to stop him. And the heels being on the floor to the people in the stadium made it more improbable that they were going to stop him. So they were thinking he was going to get the tag before he did. That reduces the pop when he does get the tag. And that's why when it comes out of nowhere, it's bigger. And I see what they were going for here, but they should have had both heels down in the heel corner and let Sammy start crawling from there where they could have stood up and tried to make a dive at his feet at the last second. And then the place would have blown. But nevertheless, the crowd, after Owens' comeback, and they did simultaneous tags again. Roman and Kevin fought. They went to the floor. They came back in. Then Kevin came back up and got a 2 count on Roman. Frog Splash, 2 count on Roman, but now they're going to have to stop Owens. So which they do. And the match kind of slowed down to a crawl because Owens and Solo now disappear. And Reigns works the people. And then suddenly Owens stunners Roman, and Roman immediately spears Kevin. And both of them sell and then tag the reappearing Sammy and Solo, who have disappeared before. And then they're immediately into 100 miles an hour. You see how the modern tag team matches especially bug me, and I've mentioned it, because people just disappear like they go off stage and await their cue to come back into the scene, and they're laying there in the middle of the fucking arena where everybody can see them motionless for minutes for no reason, and then they suddenly spring back to life. It's like giving spotlight to a different section of a play. And they go back and forth so much. I don't know. Let me ask you this. Is it just me? Did I get tired of it? Or by the time they got to the finish that we're about to talk about, were the people tired of this in the building also? Did you get that impression?
I can't speak to the building. I could tell you I was feeling the same way you were. And unfortunately, with a lot of these matches and a lot of these people that we've seen in the ring together a lot in the last few months, I'm just waiting for the drama. I'm waiting for the angle. I'm waiting for the moment, because I know that's going to come, and it'll more than likely be better than the whole match and a bigger payoff to everything than everything in the match. And that's what happened. That's exactly what happened.
Then here it comes. Sammy finally hit his kick on Solo, but Roman saved. And then it was Roman against Sammy with the other two disappeared, but Roman goes to spear Sammy, and Sammy moves, and Roman spears the referee. And that's where Paul Heyman actually moved for the first time, but only his facial muscles. But then Sammy hit the Superman punch on Roman. And then Roman came back and hit the Superman punch on Sammy. And then Owens speared Roman, and they went to the floor. And Owens cleared off both of the fucking announce desks, both Fubar and Slapco's, as well as the English language desk. But suddenly, the Usos, who we were led to believe weren't in Saudi Arabia and had not been invited by Roman Reigns, are at ringside and jump Owens and hit him with double super kicks. And that's where I noticed the fans are not losing their minds like they should be. And that part of it is because the referee was down. Part of it is because now here we go into this long side tangent in this supposedly linear story we were trying to tell with this match. And the Usos turn the desk over on Owens and then get in the ring because the referee's still down and hit single super kicks on Sammy and then go for a double one, but he fucking falls out of the way and they double super kick Solo. And Roman from down on the floor is looking up and sees that, and he's bullshit. And Roman gets in there and starts yelling at the Usos. And here's when now we're full-fledged in the dramatic rendition of this play.
Did Roman only see the super kick on Solo? Did Roman see Sammy drop out right before it?
I think we are led to believe that he just saw this. He was reacting to the double super kick on Solo. But I because we couldn't tell what he saw from his vantage point.
Right.
But nevertheless, the point is he's just reading the riot act to the Usos and starts pie-facing them and is telling them, get out of my fucking ring. And suddenly, Jimmy hauls off and super kicks Roman. Boom, and there's the big pop. Because now they've forgotten all about the match. Here's the drama we waited to see. And Jay is bullshit over this. And Jimmy's yelling at Jay, said, I'm your brother, and he does it again, super kicks him again. And Jay's like, no, you didn't do that. And Jimmy's like, I'm your brother, not him. And now we got to go.
And I'm doing what you should have done.
Yeah, I'm doing what you should have done. You should have done this a long time ago. And he now says, we got to go. And he drags Jay out, and they leave. And Solo staggers up in the middle of the ring, and Owens hits a stunner, and Sammy hits his kick. And wouldn't you know, just at that exact moment, about 4 full minutes after the first referee was wiped out with the spear, they finally found another referee, and he slides in at the immediately proper moment. 1, 2, 3. So it was long as a tag team match. It was okay, and kind of like, one of those modern matches. People are going to disappear, and it's going to go long, and it's going to be so complicated because that's what makes it good. They had a good story going into it, and they had the story that people were interested in, which was the bloodline and what's going to happen next, and they got to people at the end. So it was a sports entertainment finish that would have killed a town 30 years ago, but now that people don't expect any of this to make sense, it was good for these modern times and gave them what they wanted to see.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's interesting now because I guess we're not going to really get a follow-up until Friday when they do the 1,000-day celebration on SmackDown. So that's...
I wonder if the Usos' invitation was rescinded.
Oh, that's right. They did get an invitation from Paul Heyman to attend.
Uh-huh.
But that's all anyone's going to wait for now. It doesn't matter what match they put on SmackDown. That's the only thing on SmackDown that matters is what's going to happen with the Bloodline drama there.
Well, that's some drama that we will be covering later on this, next week on this program, because we're going to come back in a couple of days with the Drive-Thru, your program, and we're going to be talking about, among other things, the AEW. They're not Night of Champions. They're Double or Nothing. And we're going to have that clip out early on YouTube for the folks so inclined that can't wait for it. And then that plus more on this week's wonderful supersized Drive-Thru, right?
That's right. Supersized. That's right.
Supersized, baby. Supersized.
Were you a fan of Supersized when they had supersized soda and fries and everything before there was the outcry?
Are you kidding, brother? Brother, I supersize everything, brother.
Did you call me Bear Brother? What did you say there?
I said, I don't know what I was saying. I've been up since 8 o'clock watching this program.
Hey, Derek.
Hey, Derek. Well, let Sergeant McCoy know you'll be late. Anyway, so that's our program for today, folks. We will be back on the Drive-Thru with more frivolity and the pay-per-view recap, and we will be back next week on the Experience to divulge the latest happenings in the Bloodline saga. And until then, thank you, fuck you, and bye-bye, everybody.